Hello and welcome to the Abundance Blueprint with Kimberly. I'm Kimberly Ling Roberts, your host and content creator, and we have a very exciting show to share with you today. I want you to stick around because we'll be listening in on the conversation I'm going to be having, how to become individually iconic with the iconic James Chung, who is CEO and founder of a commercial real estate company called the Iconic Company. So what we're going to talk about today and our discussion is when to shoot your shot, why success does not always bring happiness. And we're going to be discussing the important topic about in being successful, are you running from something or are you running towards something? So hold tight and stick around. Everybody always likes to ask about how they can work with me. I've got two opportunities. If you go to my website, Performance Leadership International, you can either look into executive and leadership coaching. I've got a couple spots open. And then also my Bay Area Peer Advisory Group. We probably have 12 wonderful members, and I'm looking for 4 more. It could be you. So go ahead to my website, click on that, and schedule some time for us to chat. Okay, back to our conversation. Let's introduce our wonderful guest. You're going to meet the recognized and sought after retail and commercial real estate expert who soon will be featured in the retail docuseries by Dennis Quaid. He is founder and principal of the Iconic Company. He lives in the Bay Area with his wonderful wife and his 2 kids. In his work and in his passion, you're very often going to see him quoted in the Silicon Valley Business Journal, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Jose Mercury News, and many, many others. He has a very deep commitment to the commercial and retail real estate industry, and you can see that in how he works with his clients and how he communicates with people in his business. Please welcome James Chung.
Pleasure to be here.
Here he is. Very awesome to have you. I really appreciate you taking the time because I know you're a very busy man. So let's just jump right into it. I ask every guest, what does abundance mean to you?
Absolutely. And thank you very much for having me here today. Very privileged and humbled to be included. So thank you. That word actually has really been a defining theme for me since day one, not even knowing actually what it was. It was just a feeling or maybe a lack thereof. Growing up, I remember having boundaries in my life, and really ultimately it wasn't the word abundance so much that would come to mind, but it was the word choices or the lack of them. And I soon came to realize that whatever my future self was going to be, I wanted that person to be in a world where there weren't any red velvet ropes. I would not be limited to do things because of something else. And of course, immediately everyone thinks of material wealth. And in truth, a lot of it was at the time or were material boundaries, whether I couldn't do this or couldn't do that. But that word abundance and obviously the word choices are, those evolved into much deeper things that I didn't really understand at the time. But really my sole intention of my life journey ultimately was based around that concept. And so everything I did post-college, even in college, was to position myself a certain way, of course, with a lot of uncertainty, not knowing the outcome. But when you mention shooting your shot, it's exactly that. Making quick decisions and moving forward. Because when you move is when you ultimately start to understand and have awareness around things around you. But when you're stagnant in analysis paralysis is when nothing happens. I'd rather try and fail, which I've done many times, than not try at all. And I know that sounds cliche and everyone talks about it, but it's the exact same thing as shooting your shot. There's not a single time when someone fires that basketball, in the NBA thinking that they're not going to make it, right? Or a baseball player, if you hit 3 out of 10 and you average that in your career, you're a Hall of Famer. So they're failing 70% of the time. And that concept has always resonated with me, especially in relation to sports.
Yeah, if you're It's kind of like every time you get a no, you're closer to getting a yes, right? Every time you're failing, you're closer to winning or to succeeding, right? And going back to your statement about abundance, for you, unfortunately, and like so many people coming from very humble means or the lack of abundance in that case was probably more financial and material things at the time because uh, when you look at people who have financial means, there is a perception that they have access to more things, right? And potentially that they're happier, which we'll get into that discussion as well. So you mentioned that your mother was very instrumental in your life and she not only talked the talk, but she walked the walk. Can you explain a little bit more about how she was so influential and what specifically was she doing as far as walking the walk?
100%. So she's somebody who I've admired, obviously, since I was born. Even if you rewind the clock, I used to sit out in front. We used to live in this apartment building in Fremont, and I was probably 4 years old. And I would wait for her out on the curb, like into the evening, into the darkness. This is late 70s, early 80s, just to be able to ride 100 yards with her into the parking garage.
Aw.
And so I've always been a mama's boy, as they call it. But really, she earned that. Wasn't never given. She always just led by example. She was never someone who was talking at you as much as she was showing me how to walk the planet. In fact, I would argue, I'll be 50 next month, and I can honestly say I don't think she's ever even raised her voice at me.
Really?
Despite how rogue I actually was growing up. But she didn't have to, because she could look at me a certain way and I just understood. But really, her core values were so high. So to give a little background, she was essentially like the valedictorian of what would arguably be Harvard here in the US, right, in Korea. And obviously she came out of the Korean War and came to the United States in 1966 after the war. And clearly, Korea as we know it today versus then couldn't be different. And really coming here for opportunity, but ultimately, because of the language barrier and other things and the lack of network, right? When you grow up somewhere, she was not given the opportunities per se that she probably would have been given had she stayed. But she never wore that. She never talked about it. It was never a victim. It was always, putting the family in front of her before anything else. But really, watching her just every day. I mean, she had this commitment to punctuality, this commitment to accountability. She never missed any athletic game I ever played. She never missed any class where she had volunteered to be the class mom. Despite her working, 12, 14-hour days, to me, she was still always right next to me. And it's interesting as a young person, while you may not be conscious of these things that are surrounding you, but watching how she spoke to people, watching how she treated us, how she treated my father, how she treated her siblings, how she treated her parents. And then going into the outside world, watching her just be this beacon of light for me, literally since day one. And in truth, I think you could agree the hardest thing for anybody to do is be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention be consistently great. And to this day, I mean, she has not ever wavered. And she's now in her mid 80s and still drives and still does things. And I'm just, and in truth, they always tell people, oh, you should tell your parents how you feel about it. Well, I tell her every time I see her. She was just at my house yesterday after we went to my daughter's play. And again, she knows, but she doesn't wear it and she doesn't truthfully want to hear it. But I just want to make sure I say it enough.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Sounds like she's the iconic person in your world.
Oh, without question.
Yeah. It's, I call my mom every morning and it's a gift to be able to talk to her because I know a lot of people have lost their mothers and I lost my father a couple of years ago. But it's so important for me to continue that relationship and those conversations. And it's just, my day isn't right unless I talk to her. So it sounds like you have this similar relationship. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
100%. One thing that also kind of breaks my heart because, I feel like she jumped on this grenade to come here to create a better life for us, and which she clearly has. But I wish that she had more choices, even though I don't think she feels that way. I wish she had the opportunity to do more things that she's wanted to do. And I'm doing everything in my power to be able to facilitate that and do those things. But, she lives a very simple life. And I think she just finds beauty in things that, again, are not material, and has shown me how to just have gratitude and appreciate and see what is versus what could be, right? Or because there's always something else. There's always something to reach for, to do. But what she just had is this incredible balance of, back when she was working, more of this ambition, yet this equally as powerful side of gratitude and empathy and kindness that you just don't find in people.
No, I know. Yeah. She sounds like a very amazing individual and human being, and just the consistency you've talked about, and just this internal, I don't know, belief, but a love and kindness and respect, and being this wonderful symbol for you, or a statue for you, or just this person that but you got a relationship with her, but you hold her in such reverence, which is really beautiful. And you have to think about, she made a choice back then to come over here from Korea. That was her big choice, and she wanted to take that choice, and she probably didn't know all the sacrifices as part of that, but that obviously was a dream of hers and an active choice. So I think she's doing pretty well, especially when she looks at you, what you're doing. I think she's pretty happy. I don't know. Yeah. And yeah, as we know, abundance isn't always about the financial pieces of it. She sounds like she's pretty happy because she's very content with where her son is. So,
again, those choices, just digging into the non-material side, is really often even having the choice of time.
Yes.
And the opportunity to where to choose your time, how you play out your days, and the little decisions that aggregate throughout that day, but really having the opportunity to just have even time for nothing is a choice, and also a form of abundance. Because if you think, when people have to be somewhere all the time, right, that is not abundance.
No,
in a sense.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
If you have the opportunity to be able to choose, I would say arguably the most important thing is time.
So what did, a couple things. What did you take from your mother? Because obviously I feel like the iconic works well for her, just in what she represents too in your life.
No doubt.
What do you think? And you expressed her personality traits and the wonderful things she's carried and brought to you in your life, and the decisions she's made, and the consistency. What do you think makes somebody iconic like you in your particular business line? Because obviously you found something that's a differentiator. I can kind of guess, and I could kind of share probably what those things are, but I wanted to hear that from you so you can share that with the audience. What does it take to be iconic?
That's a very great question. I think people might be disappointed in how simple the answer is, or what I think it is, but there are a few traits that I took from my mother that have translated very well, and then I'll tell you where I put my spin on it. The first is discipline. And discipline is something where people talk about, in fact, there's a thing called Quitters Friday, which is the second Friday of January, where everyone sort of let goes of all of their New Year's resolutions. And I always use the gym as the example, because people, there's certain days you actually want to go, but there are most that you don't. And I'm a 7-day-a-week guy. I get up at the same time every morning, dark 30. And in truth, I would argue 6 out of 7 days I don't want to go, but I still go. And that muscle is where I think people can identify with, that everyone knows when you have to lean into something that you should be doing, but are not doing. But the funny part about that muscle is it's a muscle. It gets bigger and stronger over time, where at some point it has become so robotic for me that I don't even really think about it anymore. But that is really more analogous to how I approach my business. There are things that I'm doing behind the scenes to be able to show up at a certain meeting, at a certain project, at a certain opportunity that happened way, even from a time standpoint, a long time ago. But ultimately, there's so much work being done in the background that you have, again, the opportunity to show up the way you want to show up, whereas most people, in truth, have a hard time even showing up. Another one is, again, I mentioned punctuality. People overlook the importance of punctuality. My team knows, for example, my sales meetings start at this time, and if you're a minute late, that door's shut and it's locked. But in truth, that rule applies to me too. So if I'm late, I'm locked out. But the reality is I'm literally never late for anything. In fact, if you ask my wife, we've been together almost a quarter century, how many times I've been late in our relationship, I would bet a large amount of money for her to come up with an answer that when I actually was. And again, but what that tells you of the person, though, you are sending so many messages that are subliminal, that their time is important to you. You're accountable. And it's not about showing up one time, it's showing up all the time. And the irony is, again, it's something that most people can't do. Strangely, it's bizarre. And they can do it once, but not 10 times in a row. And if you can lean into it, again, that concept, it will yield results that you had no idea were even associated with it. But then I think for me, as it relates to my business, I do enjoy things I think other people don't, meaning public speaking. It's still the number one fear. And I absolutely love it. And it's almost like going back to the younger days of being an athlete, when you're handed, the white ball at a big game and you're the pitcher, which I was, right? Or it could be, Friday night under the lights, a big football game. Are you excited about that? Or are you afraid of that? And those two emotions are right next to each other. And for some reason, at an early age, it just was instilled in me, like, when you have these moments, those are opportunities for success, not opportunities for failure. And again, shooting your shot, shooting that ball. In my mind, I'm making it every single time. But do I? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And there have been, the part of the principles of what I do are actually the same as what we all do. And again, it's humans dealing with humans for now, at least with AI.
Yeah, hopefully that can do it. Yeah, I know that could be questioned later, but yeah.
But people just want transparency. People want the opportunity to be authentic. People want to share, they want to work together. And all of these concepts are so lost on so many organizations, where when I left Cushman & Wakefield, it wasn't because I was upset or disgruntled. It was simply that I just knew I could do it differently. And the principles of our company are literally these pillars that are almost like physical things that stand in our office every day, but that everybody has completely adopted and embraced, and they live it. They don't just talk it. And for those reasons, just obviously having the market intel and body of work and all those things, but if you have that and that, what else are you looking for? In anything, not just in real estate, but in any business line, it's simply an undefeated formula. And yes, are there things that I'm working on, we are working on to improve? 100%. Can we be better at certain things? Absolutely. We can be better every day. But if we can continue to embrace the foundation that we've built, we can grow from that, and the roots are going to be 100 feet deep.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Your culture is such a big part of why I think you're so successful. And I think that does really align with being iconic. Just the discipline, um, the respect by being on time with people, your transparency as a human being, your humbleness, right? You have a right to walk around with a pretty big ego, but yet you don't. You're still very approachable, you're funny, you're witty, you know, all the great characteristics too. I think that your iconic mother instilled in you, but I think uh you could totally, based on how much you've succeeded, be a little bit more of a narcissistic individual, and you're not. And I think that's the beauty, and what you're just so easy to talk to be with. And I'm sure you express that with all your clients, and you are very considerate about responding quickly, responding to emails, just like there's just human touch in everything you're doing. It's not AI automated. And for you, the people matter the most, right? Whether they're your employees or your clients. So a little bit more about Shoot Your Shot, and we're going to move on to the next topic. Like you stated, sometimes these opportunities come along and we didn't really plan for them, weren't thinking about they're coming around the corner, but you better take it, because you don't know if this opportunity or Shoot Your Shot's coming again. So how would you communicate to people to go at, you said it's either the fear or it's the opportunity, right? And sometimes I believe that our greatest fear, not always, is really an internal voice for us to face our fear. And when we face our fear, you actually get on the other side of your greatness, meaning you're more on your purpose and your line. Not all the time, but sometimes, right? So if you feel like I'm afraid to build my own business, but you get that angst about build your own business, and if you actually would do it, you'd get to the other side of your purpose for whatever reason. So just how would you recommend that people just take that leap? I mean, is it 1, 2, 3, jump?
That's a big question, actually. And it's funny because I spent greater part of my life, surfing around the world, and a lot of times in really precarious positions, and just even thinking at the time, like, what am I thinking right now? Like, what am I doing? And what am I trying to prove, and to whom? I mean, so I'd be by myself half the time. And again, there was this battle within, but the story I wanted to tell was more related to the moment that you engage a wave. So there are times, being in places like Sunset Beach or El Salvador or Tavarua in Fiji, where I was way over my skis as far as the size of the waves, where I am, and even having, or should I even be in this situation? But there's a moment where you take off on a wave and you can feel it catch, right? And this could be a 2-foot wave or a 20-foot wave. But there's a moment of commitment where you have to basically trust what you're doing. You trust that you've done it enough times. And sometimes it's perfect timing, but more often than not, it isn't. And that moment where you get to your feet and you're going 100 miles an hour, your nose is this far off the water. And if it goes down an inch, you're going to do multiple flips, by the way, which I've done. I mean, I've eaten, I want to keep it PG, but I've hurt myself even doing that. But something continues to go out there, but the more and more you do it, the less and less you're thinking about it. But ultimately, what it comes down to is that I think everyone knows you have that voice in your heart that speaks to you. And it is arguably louder than the TV that's on, that the music that could be blaring, or even if you're in at an EDM concert and there's this beat coming at you with these lights, but that voice inside your heart is louder, and you, and only you, know that if you are actually honoring that voice. And when you have gone against what your heart told you out of fear, whatever that fear is. But you also know, I could probably say with confidence, that anytime you have the vulnerability to actually trust and listen to that voice, again, I would argue that it's undefeated. I don't think there's ever been a time where I've listened to that voice and it's led me astray.
Mhm.
And
Agreed.
even if it led to an opportunity that may have not become an opportunity, I can tell you so many examples of so many things where being part of a failing team or a failing company or whatever it may be, that led me to other things that ultimately positioned me where I am today. And had those things not happened, none of this would have happened.
Yeah, and I want to point out too, when you face that fear, when you actually got up on when you actually just committed to the wave and riding the wave out, and you're standing and you ride that wave, it's the most exhilarating feeling in the world, right? You're on just like the runner's high or whatever it is, but it's just an amazing feel that I think encourages you to go back and try again, even though the next time you might fall, but eat some more salt water, whatever. But I do point out that very often is your voice telling you that's really a good opportunity for you to follow your purpose, and it's part of your journey. So I always like to share, if you want to bring more wealth and abundance in all areas of your life, let's have a 30-minute conversation on manifesting your dreams. Especially, it's a perfect time, the beginning of 2025. It's the year of 9, which is the year to receive all your efforts over the past 8 years, starting in 2017, to receive your abundance for all your hard work. Let's have a conversation about how you can maximize that and receive the greatest abundance you've ever had before the new journey starts next year. It sounds like James has gone for the moment, so I'm going to go ahead and close out the show. If you want to get a hold of James, you can look for him on the Econic Company. That's his website right up there. I also will have all that information in the show notes. You will see us every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Central Time and, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central Time. So we're going to say bye for now.